Hello cadets, it's Lieutenant White from Peterborough Air Cadets. In this video we're going to talk about what we need to do to achieve a high mirror shine on our drill boots. The video will consist of a few steps that we go through to achieve that mirror shine, so stay tuned. So what I have here are the absolute basics that we would need to achieve a mirror shine. We will need a tin of Kiwi brand polish, just their regular black colored shoe polish. A soft cotton cloth that's clean. It doesn't have to be a Kiwi cloth. If you are looking to be a little economical, you can go to Walmart and purchase a plain extra large white t-shirt and cut it up in strips, and that type of cotton will work just fine as well. We'll need a tiny dish with an ice cube and a little tiny drop of water in it as well. So our first step is always to clean our boots off. We want to remove any dust and debris that's on top of the leather so that it doesn't get stuck underneath the polish and make it difficult to achieve that high mirror shine. There's two ways you can do it. You can take your clean cotton cloth that we have from our kit and simply wipe it down, making sure we get all the dust and debris off. A more effective way, if you have one, is to take one of our 100% horsehair brush. This is a Kiwi brand one as well. I've had it for many years. And we can use that horsehair brush to get down into the welt and take any dust off. For this video, I'm only going to shine one so that we can do a side-by-side comparison to show you what we're looking for when we talk about a high mirror shine. So these boots are my own drill boots I've had since I was about 16 years old. I purchased them as a winter pair when I was in cadets as well. They've been totally stripped. There is no polish on these right now. I've taken all the wax polish off. The only thing I have done to these ones is put a little bit of leather conditioner on them so that the leather isn't dry and cracking, because I've had them a very long time now. So once our dust is clear, we have no dust and our shoes are pretty clean, we can begin with the polishing. So once we have gathered our basic kit, we have cleaned our boots off, the first step in achieving a mirror shine is always the base coat. So we can take our cotton cloth wrapped around one of our fingers, we take our Kiwi polish, and we get a good amount just on one of our fingers. Just like that, just not so much that it's dripping off the cloth or falling off the cloth, but enough to spread evenly around the entire toe. So that's where we will begin. So we just take a little bit on our cloth and begin spreading it around that toe box. A little bit more. Spread it around evenly all the way down as close to the welt as we can. And once we have that first coat on all the way around our toe, we can then do a second. This base coat of polish is designed to fill in the porous structure that is the leather of your boot, essentially creating a smooth surface where normally it would be not visible to the eye, but very bumpy and rough. That's the only way we can achieve that mirror shine, is having a very smooth surface, so we have to use the base coat to fill in the porous structure of the leather. So I've got two on there now. I can apply one more, a good amount, to build that base coat up. Spread it out evenly, making sure that we aren't leaving an excessive amount on any one place in the boot, that it's all spread out. Now, there's no set rule that says 3 coats of your base layer is fine. You can do 2, you can do 5, you can do as many as you like. But the next step here would be to stop and let this base coat dry, which could take anywhere from an hour to you could even leave them overnight. So step 4 in our process involves buffing our base coat to a high shine using a tiny little bit of polish, and I'll show you how much I mean. What we need is our black kiwi polish, a small container with some ice cubes and some water. The cold water helps that wax harden and become that high shine that we see. So when we begin, we have our base coat, which is now dry. We take our shine cloth wrapped around one of our fingers or 2 fingers, depending on how you like it. And all we need to do is literally touch the wax and get that tiny little bit amount on our cloth. And then we begin tiny little circles. We can go back and forth. And we just begin in a small area, not the whole boot all at once. Begin working that second coat onto it. So again, we just touch our polish so that there's just a little bit on the cloth. You don't need much at all once that base coat is dry. We take a little bit of the cold water. I prefer to touch and melt a little bit of the ice cube into the rag so that the cold temperature is still there and it's a little bit damp. And we just continue our tiny little circles all over our boot. So again, this is the first coat that have been on these boots in many years. As staff, we typically wear our Oxfords, but you guys out on the parade square are wearing your boots. So I haven't worn mine or used mine in a very long time. So this is the first coat, first shining that they've had in quite a few years now. A tricky part of this is the amount of pressure we're using. When we are applying the base coat, we want to use a firm to medium amount of pressure to work the wax into the leather. But when we are attempting to glissage over or melt that base coat with a little bit more wax on top, we want to use very light pressure. Very light pressure. That way we are not pulling any of that wax off with the pressure of our finger. We are using the friction of our tiny little circles to essentially melt the wax and smooth it over at the same time, creating that glassy surface. A little bit more water. With practice, you will begin to feel when you need a little bit more polish and a little bit more water. Essentially, when your cloth begins to feel like it's dragging or scratching the surface, that's when we want to just touch our polish a little bit with the cloth. We don't want to scoop any of it up. We just literally want to dab it so that we have a tiny, tiny little bit of polish on our cloth and some cold water. Just enough to dampen the polish. We don't want a big water drop or anything like that on the polish, our polishing cloth. So I think we can see here, after just a few minutes on this particular area of the toe, that we have a pretty good shine coming up already. can see a pretty good glassy surface starting to come up on this. So for people who have practiced this and are good at it, it can take a few minutes to touch up already good mirror shines. For people who are new, this can take many hours of practice. So it's best not to get frustrated with it. If you find that you're not getting a good shine come up right away, do a base coat, buff that cloudy finish off to where it starts to become glossy looking like this. Set them down, come back to them in a little while once you've rested, and start back on them. So I'm using very light pressure, tiny little circles all around the boot. When I find that my cloth is starting to drag a little bit, I put a tiny little bit more on my rag or my cotton cloth, a tiny little bit of water, not so much that there's even like a drop on it, but we've just dampened the polish a little bit. So I've really done nothing in between these steps other than what you've seen. Apply the base coat, which I did 3 layers of the same polish I'm using to glissage or glass it over now. And as we can see, just after 1 coat, we are starting to come up with a pretty good shot. Here's our after shot, guys. I've spent maybe 25 to 30 more minutes since the last segment of the video. Remember, we want to use small, light pressure circles and only a little bit of polish on top of that base coat that we've already applied. Boot polishing can be a very rewarding and satisfactory activity. It gives you a sense of accomplishment, especially when you can present your boots at the armories on a cadet training night. I don't call this a finished product because we are never finished polishing our boots. If you have any questions about how to polish shine up boots really well, such as in this video, ask your flight commander or any of the staff. We can always help you out.